right. Um, all right. Good evening once again. This is your man, Techi Augustine. I come your way this evening with just an update of some of the things we have been talking about over the past kind of 2 weeks or so. We have been critically examining many of the um, uh, things that we have come to see in the scriptures and how that some of them have not really been understood the way it's meant to be, or we at this point in history, we having the opportunity and the resources available to us, of course, by way of technology, uh, and science, we are able to go deeper or go behind the scenes to find out what exactly some of the verses or some of the writings that we have in our holy books, especially the Bible and the Quran, are concerned. These things that we've been talking about, I am not in any way trying to downplay the Bible or any material that we may talk about, but I think it's important to have understanding about whatever it is that we are doing or whatever we are following. So, some people ask me, are you still a believer? Some of the things we are talking about, they are a bit strange. I don't think they are strange. They are just things in the Bible. We are only looking at them from another angle, from another perspective, with some of the evidences that are available to us as of now. Let me say this. This video might, I don't want it to be very long, but I think for the sake of having proper understanding of some of the things that I've spoken about and some of the things that I'll talk about in the future, I think it's better to make time out to watch this video throughout because it's going to be very, very explosive. And some of the things that I'll be sharing with you by way of PowerPoint presentation, I think will be very, very instrumental in your Christian faith. When we were the days or when we were kids, our parents used to tell us, for instance, if you look in the sky, you see the moon, and they will tell you that is a light. So all of us, we thought that the moon was a kind of a light, you see, and of course the sun was also a source of light. But as we grew, we went to school, we have now come to understand that the moon is not light by itself. It just reflects the light that um, falls on it from the sun. So as it stands now, science has proven people have actually gone to the moon. We have had several moon landings, and it is proven beyond every reasonable doubt that the moon, as you see it in the sky, like a ball of light, is actually just like the Earth. It's just like the Earth is made up of, sun, rocks, and just as we have the Earth, it has its own atmosphere and several other things similar to the Earth. So if if we were to have a debate with our forefathers who would have no idea about what the moon was all about, they will just agree with you. They will tell you it's a ball of light in the sky. But now science has proven to us that no, it's not a ball of light. It's just almost like the Earth that we have here. And people are even these days exploring whether it will be possible for people to even live on the moon or whatever. Now we know people are going to Mars. They are planning of building, making Mars habitable for people to live on there and other planets. So these things are, I think, as we come to terms with new information or evidence that prove or disprove certain things we have in the Bible, I think it's important we let go our religiosity and our political biases and look at the thing from a very scientific standpoint. Because the God that I think we are following is more of a scientific God than a religious God. Yeah, because for creation to come into existence and then all the things that we can talk about almost every time, if you look at the universe and the things, it just go beyond science, beyond religion. You see, so we cannot just walk in there or leap on in blind faith and say that these things are true. Of course, the consequence might not be very damning, but I think um, if we have a proper understanding, that can help us or that can guide us to do whatever the God who has brought us here wants us to do in a better and a proper way. All right. So today we are going to be talking about a concept I call the cause of mankind. The cause of mankind. So let me show you this PowerPoint. Okay. So this is what we'll be talking about. The cause of mankind. It's interesting. The cause of mankind. Now, you see, the biblical account as we have it, um, the creation account that we have in Genesis chapter 1 especially, uh, talks about, the creation of the heavens and the earth and all that is in it. And then it goes down to talk about the creation of man, how man came into being and all that. But I think if we are to look at the creation story, like I keep saying, the creation account we have there is a kind of a recreation of some of the things God had already done. We'll take them out in the future to talk about how even the earth that we are living on right now, how it came into being. So we wouldn't delve deep to that, but the earth just God didn't initially out of His plan created the earth, the way we see it today. Because if you look at the globe, for instance, you look at the shape of the earth and how it looks like, you definitely know that it wasn't created. I mean, uh, 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 this way. Something happened to it, and that is why it is in this state. And every theologian, every believer, really, I think, for now has come to terms with this thing. Because if you study Genesis account, um, in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, the Bible says that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So Genesis 1 1. That's what they say. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And I think the word heaven here is supposed to be plural. It's supposed to be the heavens. The heavens. Okay. Now, but to me, a proper translation of Genesis 1 verse 1, as we have it here, should rather read like the Father of beginnings created the heavens and the gods. That's how I would translate Genesis chapter 1 verse 1. The Father in the beginning, the Father of beginnings, created the heavens and the earth. And that is a very deep statement, which I will take time out to explain why I think Genesis chapter 1 verse 1 should be rendered that way. But notwithstanding, let's overlook this one and then proceed on what we want to talk about. Okay, so the gods of mankind, that's what we are talking about. So we have come to understand that, or I have come to understand that, and of course, which is what I've been sharing. Like Jehovah, I've said many things about Jehovah and how that I've proven with the scriptures, and there are so many things we'll talk about this guy Jehovah with the scriptures. I've said over and over again that he isn't the almighty, divine, final, supreme intelligence who created everything that exists in the multiverses that we find ourselves in. No, this entity called Jehovah or the Lord God that we normally find in the scriptures isn't that true God that we have been talking about. He only masqueraded as God. And there are several of them. Like I said, we spoke about the demigods, the false gods, the idols and all that. So I think in my previous videos you can find them and have proper insight about some of the things that we spoke about there. Okay, so the gods of mankind. Now, in the Bible, when we talk about God, in every verse that you see the word God or Lord God, it is not always the same entity that is being spoken about. So you can find, let's say Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. The word God you're seeing there might not be the same entity God who might be talking in a different place, or who we might be describing in a different place in the scriptures. So let's say John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Now, the God we are describing in John 1:1, for all you know, is not the same as the God we describe in Genesis 1:1 as in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. So, the God who did creation in the beginning, Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, might not necessarily be the same God we are describing in John chapter 1, verse 1. So a lot of the scriptures, or in many places, we are going to have the word God used there, but it might not be the same personality who is actually doing or speaking or doing the exact things that we are seeing. So there are different gods that the Bible talks about. So in different places of the Bible, we have the word God used there. But actually, if you go behind the scene, you discover that it is not the same God that is being talked about in that particular verse or in all the verses put together. And that's very important. The second thing I want to say is that we have been deceived with the letter G, capital G and small g. So to some people, when you write God with capital G, you see in front, that is capital G-O-D. That is the true God. And then you write God with small g, and then you make it small G-O-D. Then they think it is an idol. That is a false God. That is weird. I mean, it doesn't make sense. You see, I mean, that is, you see, it is someone's ideology, someone's belief. It is someone who introduced that concept that the true God's name must be written or pronounced with a capital G in front. And the smaller gods or idols or demigods must have smaller g in front of their name in their spelling. But that is simply it. God really doesn't care. In fact, we are calling that divine supreme intelligence God. But for all you know, he himself doesn't call himself God. For all you know, he doesn't have a name. It is we who have given him that name, that identification as God. But for all you know, he doesn't call himself God. You see, so we need to understand that point very, very well. So the God we have in Genesis 1:1 is not the same God we have even in Genesis 1 verse 26. It's not the same God that we have in Genesis chapter 3 verse 22. There is the word God there, but it's not the same entities. And I've said over and over, there are different gods, there are pantheons, multiple gods in the Bible stories that we read about. And Jehovah is just one of the gods. A friend, a friend asked me, "What is the name of the God that I serve?" And that's a very tricky question because if you are talking about a name, the Jehovah that we are serving, especially from the Old Testament, is not the true God. Now we have come to know. So now that he's not the true God, the real true God, we just might not have his name. We can just identify him with something or just call him the name God. But the point I've been emphasizing is that I want us to know that okay, there is somebody or there's another entity or intelligence or energy beyond the gods of the Bible. There is something higher than them. And that is the point I've been trying to make. So I'm not saying don't serve God, don't serve Jehovah, don't serve whatever gods you feel, Allah, Muhammad, Jesus Christ, or whoever it is. We'll talk about Jesus from another dimension. But for now, I've just decided to hold on with the concept of Jesus until maybe later time. But we are trying to decipher some of these things. So just pay attention and let's go through these teachings. Now, I've said that this is what I've been explaining, decipher which God is being spoken of, especially in the Bible. So the first point I'm making is that most of the creation or recreation stories prior to the creation of man were not done by these gods. The gods that we have, the God in Genesis chapter 1, as we read through the Bibles and all that, the stories there, they are not, the creation story there is not done by these gods necessarily. Different gods from other universes had visited the earth prior to their arrival. So what I'm trying to say is that the gods of Genesis chapter 1 coming down, running through all the story of Genesis, we come to Exodus all the way to the Old Testament, we finish, we come to the New Testament. The gods that we talk about there, they came from somewhere. It is not always the divine intelligence we have been talking about. Okay, so if they came from somewhere, then let's move to the next point. Our focus sorry, is on the Anunnakis because they began mankind's lineage and civilization that has spanned our history books. So the gods I'm talking about in the Bible, especially the Old Testament, and then we jump to the New Testament, I'm talking about the Anunnakis. If you have come across this word, people say it's not true, people say whatever it is, but I have come to understand, I have come to believe, I have come to know that it is true. The Anunnakis, they began the human lineage, mankind's lineage, and our civilization, which has spanned every page of our history books. These are Anunnakis. The word Anunnaki simply means those whom from heaven came. Those whom from heaven came. And that was a description given by one of the Anunnakis, and I'll talk about him in a few pages ahead of us. So understand that the gods of the Bible were beings just like you and I, with higher intelligence, higher understanding, higher technology. They knew something, they could do something that, baffled us. So the gods of the Bible were human, quote unquote, human beings, flesh and blood, like you and I. Because I have always emphasized the fact that Genesis 1 verse 26 says, and God said, let us create man in our image and after our likeness. So, if we are in the image and in the likeness of the gods who created us, then they are just like us because we are their photocopy. So, we can't be different from them. So, if we are flesh and blood, they must be flesh and blood. Right. Good. Now, I said, depending on the instance, the word God might refer to different entities altogether in different religious books. So I've already spoken about it. So let's move on to the next phase. All right. So now let's look at this diagram here. Now, understand this. Very, 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 very important. What we are what you are seeing here is so important. So important. Now, if you look here, um, this blue, sorry, this blue circle you are seeing at the top here is the creator's realm, that invincible God, that God who is not known. In Acts chapter 17, verse 23, when Paul was in Athens and was addressing the people, he spoke about, you have made an inscription. Now let's look at that scripture quickly. Okay, Acts 17:23. Acts chapter 17, verse 23. Okay, verse 23. Paul addresses the Areopagus. Okay, this is verse 23. Okay, let's look at it from verse 22. Acts chapter 17, verse 22, and then we look at 23. It says that, then Paul stood in the midst of Mars Hill and said, ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious. Verse 23. Okay, for as I passed by and beheld your devotions, I found an altar with this inscription, to the unknown God, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship, him declare I unto you. So now Paul is saying that you guys have an inscription on your altars to the unknown God. So you don't know the God you are worshiping, you don't know the God you are following. And that is the problem we are having in Christianity today. We are following a God whom we don't really know. And Paul says, look, that God you are ignorantly worshiping is the one I am talking about. We'll talk about Paul and his concept of God and all these things. But that's not the point we are making here. I just want you to know that the people were worshiping an unknown God. And that unknown God is actually what I am talking about in this blue sector here, this blue circle here. So that is the greatest realm. This is the God Jesus normally referred to as the Father. The Father, the word Father he used means Abba, which is the source. So the source of everything. So the greatest realm is that realm that he lives in an invincible realm on his own. God is not in heaven. The, the real final divine Oga Patapata supreme creator, he doesn't live in heaven. He lives outside of his creation because he must be outside of his creation in order to be able to bring out this creation, in order to create. So he is living in his own realm. We don't know where he is, and he's not in heaven. So all the Christians who say we are going to heaven, if we go to heaven, we are not going to meet God there. If ever we will get to heaven, probably, maybe it is Jesus and some other beings, other entities that we might see, if these stories are even true. But God, who created everything in the universe that we find ourselves in, he does not live in heaven. So we are not going to see him in heaven. So that is his realm. He is the true God. He is the light. He is the Father. He is the source. Okay, he is the source. Now, when we come down to this three yellow circles, where I have universe 1, universe 2, universe 3, and I've written here unknown multiverses. Now, this creator God created several universes, which some people we term as multiverses. You see, multiverse, that means there are multiple universes. So there are multiple universes. Our universe, where we find ourselves in, all our planets, they constitute a particular one universe. And then there are science tells us that there are other universes, you see. So we talk about several universes, and all these universes they have beings, there are entities living on these so-called or in these universes. You see, even the human form on earth here, there are over 400 or so kinds of humanoids, let me put it that way. There are a lot of them. If people talk about dwarfs, I know dwarfs exist, and they are a form of quote unquote human beings. They are a form of beings. They also live in their own realm. If you talk about angels, they are also beings. They live in their own realm. So there are different types, different kinds in different realms of existence. So we have different universes. The universe is expanding. It's never static. It's not like God has created everything and it's fixed. No, science tells us that the universe is expanding. It keeps growing and getting larger, bigger and bigger, and different things are coming out of that. And that is the divine intelligence, the original supreme divine creator. That is his will. That is his doing. Okay, so we have multiple universes, and there are beings in these universes, different beings. Now, in one of these universes, we have quote unquote a planet called Nibiru. Nibiru existed as a planet in one of the universes, and the beings on this planet are, let's say, mortal and immortal. These are mortal and immortal beings. When you say mortal, mortality just has to do with death. Death in our human terminology. So you die, you leave this your body behind. So we say you are a mortal being. But we know that the soul does not die. So the soul is immortal. So angels are immortal in the sense that we think that they don't die, but they also have a certain kind of body. They can put down that body and take on a new form. So we are all mortals and immortals, at different stages of our growth. We are growing to become like God. We are growing into the God consciousness. We are becoming like God. The God in us is being awakened. So the beings on this planet, Nibiru, are mortals or immortal, depends on the context. Right. Now, it is these beings who came down to the earth they descended, they came down to the earth to do their own project. And when they came down to the earth, as you see it in green here, when these beings from this planet called Ibiru came down to the earth, then the human race began after some time. But it is these guys who came down here and actually began the creation of mankind and most of the things we have. So the Genesis chapter 1 account that we have there, and God said, and God said, and God created, and God did this, and then God created man, and man sinned, created a garden of Eden, and man committed how do you call it, the original sin. Let me tell you, there's nothing like original sin. Man didn't commit any heinous sin against the God who lives in this blue realm. The sin man committed was against the gods who came from this black realm, this Nibiru, this planet. So there is nothing like original sin man, Adam and Eve have committed against the divine, supreme, almighty intelligence who lives in this blue realm, who created everything that exists. So the concept of original sin, we will look deeper into that, but it just does not make sense. Yeah, it just does not make sense. It just does not make sense. If man sinned against these guys in this who came from the bureau here. Now let's look at this. Okay, so when these guys came, so let's look at the next page here. Okay, okay, let's look at this one. I think I have to come back to that. Now, these guys from the planet Nibiru came to this earth with a single reason. When these guys came to the earth, then they masqueraded as gods over the earth. So we have planet Nibiru here. Then these mortal or immortal beings came down, they descended, they flew, they came down to the earth. And when they came down to the earth on this green lane here, they became the gods over the earth. They became the gods over the earth. They began the creation and the recreation stories that we have in Genesis chapter 1 all throughout the Bible. So the gods we are talking about in the book of in the Bible is not exactly the God in that blue realm I spoke about. Where is it? Let's go back. It's not this the God in this blue realm, in this invincible realm. The gods we are talking about are the gods who came from these universes here, one of their planets. This is just one of the planets in any one of the universes. So these guys living on this planet descended, they flew their spacecrafts. They flew their spacecraft, came down to the earth to do gold mining. They came to mine gold because their planet Nibiru was dying out. It was perishing. There had been nuclear wars on their planet. So it was perishing. And out of research, they came to understand that they needed gold, 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 Sikakoko, gold, to be able to save their planet. So they were researching, trying to see where they can get gold and all that. And they discovered that there is gold on earth through some means that are some other stuff I'll talk about later on. So the gods of the Bible were beings who descended from the planet Nibiru, came down to the earth to mine gold. So let me tell you, gold mining shall never cease. As long as the earth remaineth, Galamsey shall never cease. Gold mining. You see, gold is not the most precious metal on earth. No. Gold is not the most, diamond is more expensive than gold. But you see, you can pick diamond here, nobody cares. People don't bother. But you go for gold, start talking about gold. As if there are spirits attached to gold. You mention gold, your grandmother has some gold somewhere, and all of a sudden everybody's eye turns red in the family. But you can go and get diamond, uranium, whatever, oil, and no, it doesn't shake anybody. But when you talk about gold, so let me tell you, Galamsey shall never cease. Gold mining shall never cease as long as the earth remaineth, because there is something spiritual, something serious attached to this gold. You think all the gold these guys are mining in Ghana, across Africa, and all the places, you think it's for nothing? You think it's for ring, earring, chain, copper watch or whatever? It's more than that. It's more than that. There is something beyond the physical that we see. Okay, so these gods, the Anunnakis, they came down to the earth to mine gold, and I'll talk about their descent. Now look at this. Mankind, we are going to the planet Mars. We are going to Moon. We are exploring Jupiter, other planets. Now Elon Musk is working on, and NASA in America, other China, Russia. They are all trying to, take people to Mars. They are trying to explore, find out, whether life could be there. And they are saying that yes, it's possible. I think one of the research I did, I came across a write-up, and they were talking about how that if the atmosphere of Mars, they say, is very cold. So if they can heat it up, listen, if they can heat it up small, if they can warm it up small, then it's possible human life can exist on that planet, of course, with several other conditions being met. In the same way, the planet Nibiru, as you see here, this black thing here, this Nibiru was a planet. It is a planet, is there. And most of the time, most of the time, when we talk about heaven in the Bible, most of the references are to Nibiru. The beings we encounter in our visions, in our dreams, the prophetic, encounters we have and all that, as far as they align with the Bible, most of them, when we talk about heaven, most of the time, we are doing things or referring to things from the planet Nibiru. Of course, there are several other planets in all the universes. Remember, when we talk about the universe, the Earth is one of the universe. But if you study Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, the Bible says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. It is because there is going to be some emphasis on what is happening on the earth, and that is why they single out the earth. So we could just leave it like in the beginning, God created the heavens being the universes. Because the earth is just one of the planets within the universe. But because there's going to be emphasis on what is happening on the earth, that is why it is written that way. So these gods, these beings came down from the planet Nibiru to Earth. And when they came here, they were here to mine gold, to go back and save their planet. So they came with spaceships. Just like we are going to Moon, we are going to Mars with spaceship, with spacecraft, with to the layman, like airplanes. They came here with their spacecraft, with their space jet and all those things. They came with weapons and whatever it is. They came armed. Yeah. So let us not be religious about these things I'm talking about, because it is a fundamental understanding that we require in order to appreciate the work they came to do and where they quote unquote got it wrong, and how that religion or theology and of course politics has ruined our life to some extent, because we are, or we have been ascribing the divine godhood or the divine supreme almighty intelligence to some beings or entities who are not, or who is not that person or that personality. Okay, so now they came to my goal to save their planet. So Galamsey, as long as the experiment shall never cease, right? That's something you need to take that. That's true. Okay, so when they came to the earth, they met earthlings, beings on the earth. But those beings were not Homo sapiens like we have today. So if you look here, you have this first yellow square here, or rectangle here, box here, and we are talking about the Homo erectus. So when they came, the type of beings, quote unquote, the type of human beings they found on the earth at the time, they were evolving. You see, evolution comes in here. They were evolving, but that was the stage they were. They were called, or they refer to them as Homo erectus. They were not Homo sapiens. So they have not developed abilities, intelligence, and all the things that we Homo sapiens as of today, mankind as we are, like we can do. So these were like, that's why some people say they were like apes. You see, like quote unquote monkeys. The way we talk about, we describe them. So that was the form they were in, Homo erectus, but they were not as pure, intelligent beings like we Homo sapiens are. So what happened was that they did genetic engineering, and then they came out with the Homo sapiens, you and I. And out of that Homo sapiens, they created Adama, which is mankind, And from Adama, we move on to Adapa entity, which is, of course, the story of Adam and Eve that we have in the Bible. So this is something I want you to understand. We'll go deeper in this subject, and I think when we have understood it properly, we'll know where to put our faith. So I'll end this section here, and then we'll later make time to talk about some of these gods who came to the earth, and then we'll see what happens next. So thank you for making time to watch this video. I'm bringing you very, very explosive information, just so that your faith in God will be strengthened. You will know when you are praying, when you are singing, you will know where to direct your attention. You will know what to do, you know what not to do. And when you're having certain prophetic or spiritual encounters, you will know how to go about them. And of course, if you are to assign glory or blame to whatever it is, you know where to apportion it appropriately. So thank you for making out the time. I am Techi Augustine. If you have a question, you can put it down in the comment section. You can share this video, tell a friend, link out with somebody, follow our page, and let's just learn. We are still in the faith. We are just trying to understand many of the things we have never really known or we have never understood as far as we were growing up in the faith. So thank you and God bless you. See you another time.